Good morning. Before we dive into today's news, let's clarify what the U.S. State Department actually does. Think of it as America's chief diplomat, our voice and handshake to the world. Its mission: build relationships, negotiate treaties, and protect Americans abroad. From embassies in major capitals to consulates in remote towns, its staff work to advance peace and support prosperity. They're the experts who help prevent conflict, manage foreign aid, and provide critical advice to U.S. leaders. But now, this institution is facing its biggest upheaval in decades, a sweeping reorganization and historic workforce reduction. The events of July 11, 2025, have left the future of American diplomacy in question. At the heart of these changes is the Trump administration's America First philosophy, which questions the value of global commitments. The administration claims the State Department is outdated and bloated, arguing for a leaner, more focused agency. Enter the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, tasked with slashing waste and streamlining operations. The result? A plan to cut up to 18% of the workforce, eliminate entire offices, and refocus on core national security interests. Supporters say this will make diplomacy more agile. Critics warn it's a dangerous narrowing of America's global reach. On July 11, 2025, the reorganization became real. Over 1,350 State Department employees received abrupt emails. Their jobs were gone, effective immediately. Laptops, badges, and access were revoked within hours. No time for goodbyes or closure. The scene, a somber procession of public servants leaving with boxes, careers ended in a flash. These layoffs follow months of buyouts and early retirements, bringing the total loss to nearly 3,000 staff. Many felt forced out by a toxic atmosphere and looming threats. Now experienced diplomats face uncertain futures, their expertise suddenly devalued. The human cost is measured in lost jobs, shattered careers, and a blow to America's diplomatic muscle. The cuts weren't random. They specifically targeted bureaus and offices that have long been at the forefront of humanitarian work, the defense of human rights, and the distribution of foreign aid. These are the very programs that have shaped America's global reputation as a leader in supporting vulnerable populations and upholding democratic values around the world. One of the most dramatic casualties was the Office of the Coordinator for Afghan Relocation Efforts, or CARE. This office was completely wiped out, leaving thousands of Afghan allies, many of whom risked their lives to help U.S. forces, stranded and uncertain about their futures. The abrupt closure has left families in limbo, with little guidance or support as they seek safety. The Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, which once played a crucial role in resettling refugees fleeing war and persecution, lost most of its admission staff. This has crippled the U.S.'s ability to process and welcome refugees, leaving many desperate people with nowhere to turn and further straining already overwhelmed humanitarian systems. These moves signal a dramatic shift away from America's traditional role of promoting democracy and aiding the world's most vulnerable. The message is clear: priorities are changing, and the focus is turning inward. USAID, America's main foreign aid agency, was absorbed into the State Department. This consolidation not only slashed budgets, but also centralized control, making it harder for independent humanitarian initiatives to operate and reducing the flexibility needed to respond to crises abroad. The administration's stated goal is to align all foreign spending with narrow America First objectives, prioritizing short-term national interests over long-standing commitments to global engagement and humanitarian leadership. Critics argue that the message is unmistakable. Humanitarian programs, once a cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy, are no longer a priority. Aid is being withheld, and the people who depend on it are left in the cold. The infrastructure that once supported refugee and humanitarian work has been gutted, with offices shuttered and staff laid off. The capacity to respond to emergencies and help those in need has been dramatically reduced. In the end, America's foreign policy is being fundamentally redefined, shifting from a global leader in humanitarian aid to a nation focused on its own interests, with consequences that will be felt around the world. These sweeping layoffs are not just a sudden decision. They are the culmination of a years-long, highly coordinated political effort to dramatically shrink the size and influence of the federal government. Behind the scenes, Lawmakers, strategists, and advisors have been working to reimagine the very structure of public service, aiming to reduce bureaucracy and shift power away from long-standing institutions. For months, legal challenges and court battles delayed the administration's plan, as opponents argued that such drastic cuts would undermine essential government functions. However, a recent Supreme Court ruling in favor of the administration cleared the final legal hurdle, giving the green light for the most significant government downsizing in decades. The Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, was created by President Trump through a controversial executive order. This new agency was granted sweeping authority to review, consolidate, and even eliminate entire federal departments, fundamentally changing how the government operates. Elon Musk, the original head of DOGE, brought a bold, disruptive vision to the agency. However, after a series of high-profile clashes with the president over the pace and scope of fiscal reforms, Musk resigned. Despite his departure, the administration pressed forward, accelerating the cuts and restructuring efforts. For the administration, these layoffs represent more than just budgetary savings. They are a major political victory. The move is seen as a powerful statement of presidential authority and a demonstration of the administration's willingness to challenge the status quo in Washington. Among the president's core supporters, the shakeup is wildly popular. Many in the base have long distrusted what they call the deep state and see these cuts as a long-overdue effort to return power to elected officials and the American people. With the Supreme Court's legal backing and a clear electoral mandate, the administration is now pushing forward with a bold, nationalist, and transactional approach to both domestic and foreign policy, reshaping the government's priorities. The targeted cuts, along with the absorption of USAID, are about more than just saving taxpayer dollars. They signal a fundamental shift in how America sees its role in the world, moving away from traditional diplomacy and foreign aid and toward a new era of streamlined, interest-driven engagement on the global stage. The administration defends the layoffs as overdue reform, claiming the State Department was bloated and unfocused. They argue a smaller, streamlined department will better serve American interests and respond quickly to presidential directives. Supporters say it's time to end costly nation-building and focus on security, trade, and confronting adversaries. Critics, including former diplomats and national security experts, warn these cuts are reckless and undermine U.S. security. They argue diplomacy is our first line of defense, and gutting it forces reliance on military solutions. Programs like refugee aid and human rights aren't charity. They're tools of American influence and stability. The debate is fierce. Is this efficiency or a dangerous retreat from global leadership? The numbers don't capture the heartbreak inside the State Department. Behind every statistic is a story, a career built on service, a passion for diplomacy, and a belief in the power of dialogue. Today, those stories are interrupted, and the silence in the halls is deafening. For many, July 11th wasn't just a job loss, it was the end of a calling. Lifelong friendships forged in the crucible of international crises are now tested by uncertainty. The sense of family that once defined these corridors is fractured, replaced by tearful goodbyes and lingering embraces. Jose Mercado, a 29-year veteran, called it a sad day for human rights in the world. His words echo the fears of many who worry that the loss of experienced diplomats will weaken America's voice abroad and undermine decades of progress. Inside, grief and anger mixed with solidarity as colleagues hugged and applauded those leaving. The atmosphere was heavy, but there was also a sense of unity, a shared understanding that something precious was slipping away. Morale has plummeted. Those who remain fear for their own futures and the department's mission. Whispers of anxiety ripple through the offices as uncertainty clouds every conversation and the weight of what's been lost settles in. Institutional knowledge has walked out the door, leaving a void that can't be filled overnight. Years of expertise, relationships, and hard-won wisdom are gone in an instant, and the department is left to pick up the pieces. Some staff posted signs reading "Resist Fascism" and "Diplomacy is Patriotism," a quiet protest against what they see as a political purge. These messages, taped to office doors and bulletin boards, are a reminder that the fight for the soul of diplomacy is far from over. The sense of shared mission is shaken, and the department faces an identity crisis. Once united by a common purpose, staff now question what the future holds and whether their work will still matter in the days ahead. The institution mourns not just lost people, but lost purpose. As dusk falls on the State Department, the flag at half-mast is a symbol of collective grief, a silent tribute to the ideals and dedication that have defined American diplomacy for generations. News of the layoffs sparked immediate protests outside State Department headquarters. Demonstrators, citizens, activists, and former diplomats held signs demanding the protection of diplomacy. Political backlash was swift. Democratic leaders called the move a self-inflicted wound to national security. Even some Republican foreign policy veterans voiced alarm, warning of long-term strategic damage. Critics argue that experienced diplomats are irreplaceable, and losing them weakens America's ability to navigate global crises. The controversy has dominated headlines and social media, fueling a national debate. The administration's rhetoric of strength is being challenged by the reality of a weakened diplomatic corps. The future of America's global role is now a matter of urgent public conversation. This week marks a turning point for America's place in the world. The State Department layoffs are more than budget cuts. They're a fundamental shift away from post-war global leadership. A diminished diplomatic corps means less ability to broker peace, build alliances, and address global threats. Allies feel abandoned, vulnerable populations lose hope, authoritarian regimes see less U.S. concern for human rights. The administration claims it's building a more focused government. Critics say it's dismantling America's security and moral leadership. The world is watching as America steps back, leaving a vacuum others may fill. The nation stands at a crossroads, debating its identity and responsibilities. For now, a quieter, more isolated America is the new reality, and the world wonders what comes next.